A monster in a cage, but who was truly trapped? She thought she was the captor, thought she was in control. But the thing behind those bars never feared her. It knew her. It remembered. And as she stood there staring into its inhuman eyes, something inside her began to break. A whisper at the edge of her mind, a memory buried too deep, a truth she wasn't ready for. Because this wasn't just a monster. It was something else. Something she had freed once before. Something that had been waiting for her to remember. Waiting for her to unlock the cage. Again. Now the key is in her hands. And the question is no longer, should she open the door? But why did she ever lock it in the first place? The rain never stopped in this part of the city. Thick, acidic, laced with a stench of decay, it fell in endless sheets over rusted metal and broken neon. The marketplace stretched in every direction, a labyrinth of filth and shadows, where the unwanted came to disappear, human or not. Among them, she stood unshaken. She had no name here, just a reputation and a secret, a cage, and inside it, something monstrous. The iron bars were old, rusted at the edges, but still strong enough. The thing inside watched her, not with rage, not with hunger, with recognition. She ran her fingers along the bars, ignoring the damp chill, the filth coating her skin. "You're not going to try and kill me," she murmured. The thing didn't move, didn't even blink. It could have torn through the bars, shredded the metal to rust, ended her life in a heartbeat. But it didn't, because it was waiting for something she didn't understand yet. "You're insane for keeping that thing alive," a voice growled from behind her. She didn't turn, didn't need to. She knew his type, a bounty hunter, another lowlife with a gun and an ego. "You should have sold it when you had the chance," he muttered. "Or better yet, put a bullet in its skull." The beast smiled, a flash of jagged, dripping teeth. He sounded like wet bones shifting under flesh. The bounty hunter stepped back. She didn't. Her grip tightened on the bars. She knew fear. She had lived in it, breathed it, been built from it. But she wasn't afraid now. She should have been. She should have run. But she had made a mistake. She had stared into its eyes too long, and something stared back. The hunter muttered a curse, stepping further away. "You keep playing with that thing, and one day it'll rip you apart," he said. Then he was gone, swallowed by the market's chaos. She didn't move, didn't take her eyes off the cage. The creature leaned closer. Its breath smelled like the end of all things. Then it whispered, "Not if I do it first." She should have run, should have left that place the moment the words left its mouth. But she didn't. She stayed, and the thing in the cage kept watching her. The rain hit the market's tin rooftops like a chorus of knives. People moved through the narrow streets in the dim neon light, their faces hidden beneath heavy coats and shadowed hoods. The black market traders whispered about her as she passed, about the girl with the beast, about her stupidity. She heard them, ignored them, because deep inside she wasn't sure they were wrong. Her boots splashed through pools of filth, the metallic scent of oil, blood, and something else filling her lungs. She had to make a choice: sell it, kill it, or find out what it really was. Because something was wrong with this. This wasn't just a monster. It knew her, and something deep inside her knew it too. She returned to the cage. The beast was waiting. It always was. And as she stood there, gripping the bars so tight her knuckles turned white, it spoke again. "You don't remember, do you?" Her stomach twisted. "Remember what?" A long silence. Then, "What you did to me." She stepped back. The words sank into her like knives, because there was something familiar about them, something too close. "You're lying." It didn't blink, didn't move. "Aren't you tired of pretending you don't know?" Her breath caught, because something inside her did know. She just didn't want to remember. The air was thicker now. The market sounds faded, swallowed by the rain. She felt cold. Not from the weather, from something deeper. "You're just a monster," she whispered. The beast grinned. Then what does that make you? Then what does that make you? The words coiled around her like a noose, tightening with each second of silence. The beast wasn't moving. It didn't need to, because its eyes, dark, inhuman, but still somehow knowing, were already digging into her, tearing her apart, looking for something she didn't want to find. She took a step back. Her boots splashed in dirty water, sending ripples through the neon-lit filth. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice too sharp, too defensive. The beast's grin widened, stretching over rows of jagged, blood-stained teeth. "Liar!" She clenched her fists. "You're just trying to get inside my head." "Am I?" It leaned closer to the bars, chains rattling against metal. "Then why are you shaking?" She was shaking. Her body knew something her mind refused to accept. Memories she couldn't reach, something buried, something she had locked away. A shadow passed behind her. She turned. The market was still moving, still alive with criminals, traitors, and killers. But some of them were watching her now, whispering. She caught the edge of their words. "She's had that thing for too long. She's getting too close. She's not gonna sell it, is she? Maybe she doesn't want to. Maybe she can't." Her pulse pounded. Because they were right. She should have sold it. She should have killed it. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because somehow this thing was tied to her. She turned back to the cage. The beast was waiting, always waiting. "Tell me," she said, voice low. "Tell me what I'm supposed to remember." Its grin faded. For the first time, its expression shifted. Not amusement, not hunger. Something else. Something almost human. "You don't want to know." Her breath caught. "Tell me." The beast watched her. Then, "All right, let me out. All right, let me out." The words settled into her bones like ice. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Because even though she had been expecting this, dreading it, hearing the words aloud made something twist deep inside her. The beast was watching, not grinning, not mocking, just waiting, like it already knew what she would do. She should have laughed, should have thrown the words back at it, should have told it to rot inside that cage for another 100 years. But she didn't, because deep down, she was starting to wonder. Her fingers hovered over the rusted bars. "You think I'm that stupid?" she said, forcing the words out like they didn't hurt. The beast tilted its head. "No, I think you're starting to remember." She swallowed hard. The rain hammered down outside the market's tin roof, dripping through the holes, turning the floor into a maze of puddles and filth. It had been raining when she first found the cage. Hadn't it? Hadn't she? The memory was slipping, just out of reach. Like a dream that turned to smoke the moment you opened your eyes. "I don't remember anything," she muttered. The beast's eyes darkened. "You will." It leaned forward, pressing its hands against the bars. The same hands that could have ripped her in half. The same hands that had killed before. But not her. Never her. And she didn't know why. A noise behind her. She turned. The crowd had grown thicker. More eyes were watching now. More whispers. "She's losing it. She's going to let it out. We can't let her." A shadow moved through the crowd. A man. Broad shoulders, cold eyes, a gun hidden beneath his coat. Her blood ran cold. They weren't going to let her decide. She turned back to the cage. The beast saw the change in her face. "They're coming for you, aren't they?" it said, voice almost curious. She didn't answer. Didn't have to. It already knew. Just like it had always known. "Then I guess you don't have a choice." Her hand tightened around the lock. Because it was right. She didn't. Her fingers tightened around the rusted lock. The key felt heavier now. Like it wasn't just metal, like it was a decision, a point of no return. She could still walk away, still leave this thing behind. But the men in the crowd wouldn't let her. They were already moving. She could see it in their eyes. The moment she hesitated, they would strike, and she'd never get another chance. To remember, to understand, to know what this thing really was. "If I let you out," she whispered, voice so low it barely carried over the rain. "Will you kill them?" The beast tilted its head. "Does it matter?" Her stomach twisted. It should have mattered. But it didn't, because deep down, she already knew the answer. And it wasn't no. The first man stepped forward. His coat shifted, revealing the metal gleam of a concealed weapon. She could hear his breath, could hear the soft click as he disengaged the safety. "Don't do it," he warned. Her fingers tightened. Her heartbeat slammed against her ribs. The beast's gaze didn't waver. It was waiting for her. The man moved first, too fast. He reached for his gun, and she turned the key. Click. The lock snapped. The door swung open, and the monster stepped free. Everything happened at once. The man raised his gun. The beast moved faster, a blur of black flesh, dripping with something that wasn't quite blood. Teeth, claws, a sickening crunch. The man hit the ground in two pieces, and the screaming started. The marketplace erupted. People ran. Some fought. Some didn't have the chance. Because the beast was loose now, and it had spent too long being caged, too long waiting, too long remembering, and now it was free. She should have been afraid, but she wasn't. She stood in the center of the chaos, blood splattered against her skin, watching as the beast tore through the ones who came for her. And then it turned back to her, not to attack, not to kill, just to look. "Now do you remember?" it asked, and deep in her bones, she did. Blood painted the walls. The screams had faded, drowned beneath the sound of rain and dying breath. The marketplace, once alive with whispers, with deals, with the quiet dread of those who lurked in the underworld, was now a graveyard. Bodies slumped over stalls, collapsed in narrow alleyways, their eyes wide, empty, staring. The beast stood in the center of it all, breathing, alive, and looking right at her. "Now do you remember?" The words wrapped around her throat, squeezing tighter with every second of silence. Her fingers curled into fists. She had spent so long pretending she didn't feel it, pretending she didn't know it. But the truth was sinking in now, flooding through her like poisoned memories, each one unraveling a piece of the lies she had built around herself. She had been here before. She had known this thing before, and the beast had once known her, too. A flash. Metal walls, a cold operating table. Screams, not hers, theirs. She staggered back, gripping the edge of a rusted stall, her breath coming too fast, too sharp. The beast watched her carefully, waiting, not attacking, never attacking, because it wasn't just a monster, it was a survivor, just like her. "I did this to you, didn't I?" she whispered. The beast tilted its head. "They made you do it." Her stomach twisted. "Who?" It stepped forward. The ground cracked beneath its weight. "You already know." And she did. The lab, the experiments, the tests. She had been part of it. She had helped make it. And then she had betrayed them all. "I let you out once before," she realized. The truth hit like a blade to the chest. She had unlocked a cage just like this one, had watched it step out, had watched it kill for the first time. Not in anger, not in revenge, but because that's what they made it for. That's what they had made both of them for. "What am I?" she asked. The beast's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "You're what's left." She felt it now, the hum beneath her skin, the memories waking up. She wasn't human. She had never been human, and neither had it. They were experiments, two halves of the same project, one locked in a cage, the other locked in a lie, until now. "What happens now?" she asked. The beast tilted its head. "That's up to you." She wasn't breathing. Not really. Not in the way humans did. Because she wasn't human. She never had been. And the thing standing in front of her, bloodied, breathing, waiting. It wasn't a monster, not to her, not anymore. The rain kept falling, washing the blood from the rusted streets, turning the bodies into shadows in the mist. The city was silent. Everyone who could run had. Everyone who stayed was dead. And in the middle of it all, she and the beast stood together, watching, waiting, because this moment wasn't the end. It was the beginning. What happens now? She heard her own voice, but it didn't sound like hers. Not the voice she had used in this life, but the voice from before. The voice of the one who had made the first mistake. The one who had thought she could be more than what she was created to be. The one who had set the monster free once before. And now, she had done it again. The beast moved closer. It wasn't afraid. It never had been. Because it had known all along. It had seen through the lie before she had. It had been waiting for her to wake up, to remember, to choose. "You asked me what happens now," the beast said. Its voice was quieter this time. Less rage, less hunger. Something else. Something almost gentle. "Now we end it." She nodded because she understood now. The lab, the experiments, the people who had made her, who had made them both, they weren't gone. Not yet. Not until she made sure they never did this again. Not until she burned the whole system to the ground. She turned to the city, to the world beyond it, to the storm brewing in the distance. She could feel it. Something waking up, something waiting for her. Not a memory, not a nightmare, but revenge. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid. "Let's finish this." She took a step forward. The beast followed, and together they disappeared into the storm. The city lies in ruins. The rain washes away the blood, the fear, the lies. But the truth remains. She was never meant to be free. She was never meant to remember. But now she does, and now she's going back, not to run, not to hide, but to end it. They created her. They caged her. They tried to erase her. But some things refuse to be forgotten. She's coming, and she's not alone. What happens next? Will she burn it all down, or become the very thing she was created to destroy? Tell me your theories in the comments. And if you love dark, mind-bending sci-fi horror, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Because in this universe, no one is ever truly free. See you in the next nightmare.